The president has been extremely erratic in the last 24 hours on the question of stimulus. Wall Street's been warning what would happen without it. The numbers are grim and don't look good. Goldman Sachs says a recovery will slow considerably. Morgan Stanley says market volatility, a V-shape to flatten. And the Business Roundtable says it could worsen and prolong economic crises. The economist and former US Treasury Secretary Larry Summers says no stimulus is irrational.
We're taking a big chance, bigger chance on having another recession. We're going to have more people out of work. We're going to have more people in poverty. We're going to have more people probably dying because there's not going to be safety on the streets and adequate health care in municipal hospitals.
Now, Neil Bradley is the Executive Vice President and Chief Policy Officer at the US Chamber of Commerce, joins me now. Reading your statement, you said Washington's failure to enact additional COVID relief will be felt on Main Street. It's disappointing ever since there was a compromise agreement. But I'm not sure what the situation is. In a nutshell, do you understand whether there will be stimulus or not?
I think what we can say is right now that negotiations over the type of support that our economy needs are not occurring. And so now we have these discussions on Twitter and in the press about different ideas. We don't really have time for that. We need economic support to get done now. And so that's why we believe it's really important that all the parties, Democrats, Republicans, Congress, and the administration, get back to the table. There is an outline of a reasonable compromise that's been presented by a bipartisan group of members in the House. That ought to be the outline that they work from, and they ought to get this deal done before they go home for the election.
How bad is the situation? I'm hearing all sorts of numbers about the number of small businesses that have failed, 1 in 7. I've heard the number of Americans who are still out of work. I mean, if you look at it from a corporate point of view, how serious is the situation?
Well, we're in the middle of what we would call a K-shaped recovery. There are certain sectors of the economy that have really bounced back from what happened this spring. Financial services, for example. So it is that V-shaped type recovery. We have other sectors of the economy, leisure and hospitality, where, for example, 1 out of 5 jobs that existed in February is now gone. The travel and transportation, the entertainment industries, they're at the bottom end of the K. You know, Congress and the administration said, hey, we're going to build these folks a bridge across this pandemic. What they built for those folks at the bottom end of the K isn't a bridge, it's a pier. And if they don't extend the pier, what's going to happen is that millions of Americans and thousands of small businesses are going to fall right off that pier. And it risks exactly what Secretary Summers said, turning that bottom end of the K into a much broader recession that brings down the overall economy.
Here's the problem, and I don't want to, I mean, I know you tried to be apolitical at the Chamber of Commerce, but here's the problem. Republicans in Congress know fully well what you're talking about. I mean, the president may say, I'm telling my negotiators to stop, but the leadership in the House and the leadership in the Senate, quite capable of saying, actually, we need to pass this. We're going to get on with passing it.
Listen, I think there's blame to go around on both sides and in both leaderships. You know, no stimulus is not an option. The $3 trillion package that some Democrats were pushing earlier is an over-exaggeration and risks running up the debt for no reason. That's why a middle compromise is the place where this needs to be. Interestingly, rank and file members of Congress seem to get that. What we need is the leadership in both parties to embrace that and get this done.
Between the Democrats' multi-trillion-dollar package and the Republicans' trillion-dollar package, which do you prefer?
Well, it ought to be the compromise in the middle, right? So somewhere around 1.5 trillion is probably the number that allows you to address all of the needs that we see that are out there and to address the priorities that both parties have without going above and what's necessary.
Well, one thought does occur to me. A couple of weeks ago, I heard the British Chancellor, the Finance Minister, when talking about protecting jobs, he talked about viable jobs. I'm not hearing that discussed over here. In other words, propping up companies that frankly have no economic future, zombie companies, if you like, because they are not viable. Is that something you're concerned about?
It is something we're concerned about. The proposal and our recommendations to Congress that the U.S. Chamber put out at the beginning of the summer, we recognize that. As much effort as we might provide, there are some businesses that are not going to return, and there are some jobs that are not going to return. What we need to do is help individuals in those jobs who aren't coming back, not just to keep them on unemployment assistance. We need to get them the job placement programs and the training programs to get the new jobs that will emerge in their place. And so this isn't just about propping up the status quo. It's about getting to a better future. To get to that better future, we're going to have to be smart with some of these investments.
Neil, good to see you, sir. Neil, thank you. As we